Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom are open for business. Hey guys, it's KJ,
John,
and Winnie. Welcome to our channel where we do videos on
Disney,
motherhood and lifestyle. If you like today's video,
give it a thumbs up,
hit that subscribe button,
ding the notification bell,
and leave us a comment. And John, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, it's Monday. We have another Disney news and updates video for you, and the parks, at least 2 of them, are now open.
That's right. Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom are open for business. So if you guys are like us and you do not live in the state of Florida, or you didn't make the journey to Florida for the opening, then maybe you were also watching a ton of Disney vlogs like we did over this past weekend. How many vlogs do you think we watched? We watched a lot.
Yeah, I would say dozens.
Yeah, we really wanted to see what the parks were looking like. Were people wearing their masks? Was it social distance? What did the capacity look like? Didn't officially announce the capacity, right?
Our guess is it's somewhere in the 25-30% range.
So since we watched so many vlogs and we couldn't be there ourselves, we thought we would share with you in today's news video what we saw, what we think of it, and let you know.
One of the main things we were interested in were the capacity limits at the parks. How busy were the shops? How busy were the rides? Was it overcrowded? And without Fast Pass, just how long are those wait times? And just how easy it was to grab a meal inside. From what we saw, the park didn't look too crowded. Main Street didn't look overcrowded. Some of the shops did get overcrowded and the social distancing kind of fell apart in some of the shops from what we saw. The rides range from either a walk-on for some and to more like 15-20 minutes for more of the e-ticket attractions.
That's right. I think it was Theme Park Express we were watching, and they went inside the Emporium and it looked really crowded. Main Street didn't look crowded at all. I guess everybody was inside shopping.
One thing that particular vlog did point out was that there was only one entrance and one exit, so once you go into the store, you got to make your way all the way through. Now, who knows if that changes? Maybe Disney will say, like, all right, maybe that's not the best system. But once you enter by Casey's Corner, which is closed at the moment, you would have to go all the way through the store and exit down by the firehouse. So that kind of made it where you couldn't just kind of go in and out. Everyone was kind of just using that as Main Street if you went into the store.
Right. It seems like they didn't want people to be able to just enter anywhere on Main Street. They wanted one point of entry. But what we were thinking is that's fine, but maybe they should have had several exit points and just had cast members letting people know you can't enter here, you have to go enter this way. That seems like a hot spot for me, but that really seemed to be the only hot spot at Magic Kingdom. The other concern, we were watching the WDW couple and they went for the cast preview and they rode the safari. And on the safari, you could take your mask off. There were partitions in between each row, but they filled each row. Even though it was your own party in each row, you were still on a full truck. And the partitions had little like slits in the bottom, so they weren't entirely separating you. So I don't know how I would feel about going on that. We also were watching Adults in Disney. We were following their Instagram stories, and they actually decided to get off of the safari because they weren't comfortable with it. And I really respect that, and I'm glad that they said that. You know, everyone's gonna feel differently, and if you wanna go on and take your mask off, that's totally fine. But I'm glad that there were people said they didn't feel comfortable and let us know. I think that's a personal choice, but that was just something else that stood out to me, those two things.
Yeah, and is that the only ride that we've seen, at least in Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, where you can take your mask off fully? Is there any other ride where we've seen that?
I don't think so. Of all the vlogs that we watched, and again, we watched a lot. We wanted to see everyone's different experiences. I believe that was the only one where we saw people were allowed to take their masks off.
And it's odd to me because you are riding the vehicle with a lot of other people. I know there's the partition like KJ just spoke about, but to me, you're still riding with a bunch of people. How about a ride like we talked about Splash Mountain? We saw a lot of Splash Mountain people going down just in their party. If there was ever a ride where you think you'd be able to remove your mask, it would be one where, one, you could get it wet, and two, where you're not kind of cross-contaminating with anybody else on the vehicle. The Animal Kingdom ones, it's odd to me, considering how many people they pack onto those Jeeps, buses, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
That you can remove your mask.
Again, this is all what we watch, so you know, we don't want to give this to you and say like this is concrete, this is just what we've seen. And everyone seemed to say that when you went on Splash Mountain, you were riding in a vehicle by yourself. And speaking of Splash Mountain, I don't know if you guys saw this. We saw people buying every single piece of merchandise for Splash Mountain. We saw people with bags and bags and bags of Splash Mountain merchandise. It was insane. And I'm surprised Disney let them do that, that there wasn't a limit on what you could buy.
Well, we saw that a lot on the cast member preview day where people were buying up loads of stuff. In addition to the rides and the shopping, we were also interested to see how the dining would operate. I'll be more interested in the dining once Epcot opens on Wednesday, if you're watching this after Wednesday, on July 15th.
And Food and Wine is going to be taking place, don't forget.
Correct. And we saw on several vlogs how dining was working in Magic Kingdom. We'll shout out Pinocchio Village House. You have to mobile order only. You have to wait on socially distanced lines outside of the Pinocchio Village House. When your order is ready, you kind of go in one at a time just to contactlessly pay, and you then have to take your food either out of there or to a opened table that is assigned for social distancing, because there's some tables that are just closed off. It seemed like a lot, to be honest, and I know Magic Kingdom doesn't always have the best dining options, and especially without quick serve things like Casey's Corner being closed. You can't just go grab a hot dog and go walk off away from people. So that part I could see being challenging. I think if we went, we would maybe do one of those things where we go to the parks, leave the park to go get a meal back at our hotel, and then maybe go back, since you can only go to one park at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's what we would do.
Or just get dining reservations so you don't have to deal with the whole mobile order and figure out if you can get a table.
As far as dining, we saw some things on Instagram stories and again in vlogs, but I do think we'll need to see a little bit more, and Epcot will definitely be something that's interesting. But maybe next week, once we watch some more vlogs and see some more Instagram stories, we can update you on how it looks and our thoughts on it.
The one thing this opening and all the vlogs did assuage my fears of was the character greetings at the park and the rose gold color of the castle. We'll start with the color of the castle first. It didn't seem like anyone really had any major issues with the castle going from its normal color to now the rose gold color for the 50th. And seeing all the vlogs, I think I can get down with it too, especially if it's just for the year.
Is it only for the year?
Well, everyone says, well, I don't know. Who knows? With Disney, anything's possible. But it seems like it's gearing up for... Now, the year could mean technically the 50th year doesn't end until October of 2022. So that would actually be 2 years. So we'll see how long we have a rose gold castle. But seeing the different vlogs, I didn't really have a big issue with it. It was something different. And we're obviously going to want to take a new picture in front of the castle with Winnie, so that will be fun. And as far as the character greetings, I actually thought it was kind of cool, the character cavalcades that they had going, that's hard to say, that they had going down Main Street and popping up all over. I actually kind of remember that from my childhood, where it seemed like a character could appear from around the corner, and then as we kind of moved into this century, everything was like a set time, because people wanted to be able to book their greetings, and that's how Disney became. But I remember as a kid, it seemed like you could just, you know, take a turn into one of the different lands, and you could bump into any character.
That's how it is sort of in Disneyland.
Yeah, and it kind of, the cavalcade kind of brings that back a little bit. Like, you could walk out of the Emporium, and there's Gaston or Merida on a horse.
Walking down Main Street. I thought that was really cool. And they had Tinkerbell on her treasure chest. They also had cavalcades. We saw, I think with Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy. There was another one with 2 of the 3 Caballeros, and maybe Tigger and Goofy. We did our research. We watched a ton. We couldn't be there for you, but we did our research. Another thing that was cool, we saw Buzz. He was in Tomorrowland. He was on one of the stages, so you could take a cool selfie. I think we saw Stitch doing something similar, so that was cool.
We saw Captain Jack Sparrow out in Adventureland by Pirates.
And then Chip and Dale were right by the Tom Sawyer Island. They were on a boat, and in Animal Kingdom they actually had characters on the boats as well. They had Pocahontas and Meeko on a boat, and then they also had characters. They had Chip and Dale in their dinosaur costumes. I think Goofy was on that raft too. So you got to see the characters, and I thought that was unique having them on the boats. They also had drummers and music going on, so the magic is different, but it's still there. The one thing I'm not sure if I could get used to is that on all these vlogs, we hear people saying that the parks are closing and everyone's giving like the wave goodbye as the night is over, and the sun is still brightly out. Like, it is like, it's daylight as daylight can be. All I'm thinking is, wait a minute, we got a lot more park hours here, but no, the parks are closing in some cases at 7 o'clock when there's full sun, but because there's no nighttime shows, no fireworks, no stage shows, and to also, you know, limit the amount of people, I mean, there's no park hoppers, parks are closing earlier. So it was very bizarre to see, though, people saying goodbye and it's still bright sunlight. Yeah. So speaking of the parks closing and leaving the parks, transportation. So some people, they drove. If we do end up going to the parks, we will be driving down, we will not be flying. And since we would have a car, we decided that we would drive to the parks. Right. That would be our best option. We were watching Mama with the Mouse, their Instagram stories, and they had the buses on their feed. And when I say the buses, I don't mean Magical Express. I mean the buses that take you from the parks to the hotels or from the parks to the parks. What they said was, when they were getting on the bus driver asked them how many people were in their party, and then the bus driver directed them to where to sit. I think they said there were numbers on the seats, and that's how they were directed. But the interesting thing was, if they were sitting, say, on this side, it looked like all the seats across from them you couldn't sit in, and then there were partitions between each. Say like John and I were in different parties, there would just be a partition here and basically like would like look around and like you'd be right there. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. That's the only thing we've seen so far on the buses. And then we were watching, who was it? Michael K?
I think so, yeah.
He got on the monorail, and similar to how the safari was set up, there were partitions, but there was space underneath, so I'm not sure how much good that is doing. I guess it's sort of like a sneeze guard, if you will, but I'm sure you have little kids that might want to like poke their heads under their kids. It's what they do. So that would be a little bit of a concern to me, and I don't think it was one party per cabin. I think it might have been like one party per bench. It didn't look like you could really be separated. So what do you think?
Yeah, so in full disclosure, KJ referenced earlier that we would be driving to all the parks if we do end up going later in the year. We would have our car, we plan on driving down instead of flying, which means we would be able to go to Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios by driving. And as far as Magic Kingdom, we would walk, so you can figure out what hotel we're staying at. Because I don't know if we feel fully comfortable with riding the transportation, and that has nothing to do with Disney. We're not flying for a reason. We're just not comfortable with any sort of transportation. We live right near New York City, and we're not comfortable riding that transportation either. So it's not a Disney thing. Disney's taking great steps to keep people safe on their transportation. There's only so much you can do when you're piling a whole bunch of people, so they're taking the proper steps. But for us, we would just travel on our own to each individual park. Even with the steps they're taking, I still would prefer to do it the way we're going to plan to do it.
And speaking of partitions, going back to the rides, we saw that some rides had partitions in the queues. It was like Flight of Passage, I think, had some partitions. Definitely Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, that had it, because if you guys know, at one point you split into left and right, so you're right next to each other, so they had partitions going down that.
One of the things I found interesting on rides like Haunted Mansion, there's no longer the pre-show before the ride. So a lot of rides are doing away with the pre-shows where people have to pile into a room. It looked like Dinosaur was doing that too, that you can kind of just walk right through. Rides like Dinosaur, Haunted Mansion, things that have any kind of pre-show where people got to kind of clutter in one space and watch something before going to the ride vehicles seem to have been eliminated.
I do think though on Flight of Passage you skipped the first pre-show, but I believe you went to the second portion of the pre-show. That it did look like you were only going with your own party.
That's what it looked like, yep. By watching these vlogs, we also got 2 answers on things that I had questions about. One, how would you throw out garbage without really touching the trash cans? Well, Disney tied the cans, kind of like the little flaps, together so they remain open. Some of them had the covers off totally, so you could just throw out trash without actually having to touch something. And the other thing I was pleasantly surprised about was the rides that are also double as shows, things like Philhar Magic and Carousel of Progress. They allowed those attractions to happen, but they had certain seats and rows completely blocked off. They had do not enters, they had X's on seats, so basically they had like seats, I think, in groups of 4s or 6s where you could sit there, but then there would be like another 4 seats that were empty next to it, and the row behind it and in front of it were also empty. So I would say it was probably operating at probably 30% capacity like the park, but the ride attraction would still be operational. So I thought that was pretty cool, because we hear about all these shows being canceled, but it's nice to see that Philhar Magic, you can still get out of the Florida heat.
I still don't know that I would go in something like that. I think we'd have to see. We've seen just a few vlogs. We saw, I think, Prince Charming Dev, he went on Carousel of Progress.
He also did Philhar Magic. That's where we saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I think I need to see a little bit more footage on that.
It's odd to see that the People Mover is not operational. Maybe that has nothing to do with COVID. That just should be they're doing something to it. That would seem like an easily one to socially distance. It's just trains. They're kind of always running. It's not usually that crowded.
No, it is. Always crowded now.
I don't know when that became so popular. I think vlogs made that ride more popular than it used to be. That used to just be the ride to just get off your feet. Now it's like,
that was our go-to, and now
people love it.
Now that needs a fast pass.
So while the parks are opening successfully, and that is the biggest news of the week, it wouldn't be a Monday without more Disney news, and some big news is coming from across the globe. Hong Kong Disneyland is reportedly closing due to a surge in coronavirus cases. So it is closing. For how long, we will see. But that is a report. I believe it was WDW news today was the first ones to report that. But hopefully what they're seeing there in Hong Kong is not something that comes over here to the United States. Hopefully these parks, now that they're open, can remain open. Hopefully California follows at some point.
And speaking of California, another piece of news, Downtown Disney did open up, but there is still no news on when the parks will actually open. Given how the state of California is with cases right now, we were saying we don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
They're having a surge themselves, and considering what they went through in the spring, they may be more reluctant to open than Florida was. So it's possible that that opening continues to be delayed. We shall see. Speaking of things, though, that have been confirmed to be delayed, Mulan was supposed to come out in March into theaters. Then it got pushed to July 24th, and just a couple of weeks ago, Disney announced that it had been pushed yet again. Mulan is now scheduled to hit theaters on Friday, August 21st, and it's anyone's guess if it actually comes out on that day or if it gets pushed again. Disney is desperately trying to get this movie into theaters because they have high hopes for it and what kind of box office it can bring. They don't want to just send it directly to video on demand. August 21st is now the day that they're projecting that Mulan will hit theaters.
I was saying to John, I think that if they did send it direct to video or direct to on demand, that I think it would actually still do really well, because if movie theaters do open, or if they are already open where you live, they're opened at a reduced capacity. If they released it, you know, straight to on demand, I think they actually would fare better. I know we would definitely rent it, you know, maybe we'd even rent it more than once.
I think that's a good idea, and I think if Disney Plus has the capabilities, or if it wasn't hard for them to give them the capabilities, if this continues to go on where going to movie theaters becomes something that's just not safe, or a lot of people just have reluctance in doing, Disney should look to try to put some sort of platform within Disney Plus where you could rent new releases in addition to your, you know, normal $7 subscription, where you can rent new releases for whether it be $20, $25, that the whole family can enjoy, and you have it for 24, 48 hours. I think that would be a cool little addition to Disney Plus, and I think we would do two things. It would get people renting new movies at home, and I think it would make new people Disney Plus subscribers. So I don't know, maybe they're already looking into that, who knows.
Based on what we watched over the last few days, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom seem to have, all things considered, a successful opening. We are really looking forward to, I think, Hollywood Studios right in Epcot.
Yep,
and how that turns out. And again, we're going to do our research for you guys. Since we can't be there, we are watching every vlog we can possibly find. We are staying on top of people's Instagram stories because we can't be there. We're going to do our research for you and bring you that news. And then also, don't forget, we have our must-do Wednesdays, and this week
it's Hollywood Studios, so we have your 5 must-dos at Hollywood Studios, and what better time with it opening on Wednesday.
If you guys like this video,
give it a thumbs up,
hit that subscribe button,
ding that notification bell,
and leave us a comment. Did you guys get to the parks? If so, let us know. What did you think? If you didn't get to the parks, are you planning to? Let us know in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you, and with that, we will see you real soon. Bye!
See you at the parks as soon as we get there.
Oh, bother.
Hey guys, it's Winnie. I decided my parents would not be in this video because, let's face it, I'm the star of the show. You like Winnie's outfit today, guys? She's wearing Winnie the Pooh. Just for all of you.